What a nice place, isn't it? Is this a very nice bodega, don't you think?
I was going to say it's very beautiful, and I find it really phenomenal you've managed to achieve so much since just September last year.
Thank you very much.
It's beautiful. It's obviously practical, but it's also beautiful too.
Thank you very much. It's been a challenge. We did it quite quickly. Exactly, we started in September, but luckily we've opened in April this year, and it's a brand new space open for everybody who wishes to come and discover a bit more about the wines we make here.
Because whenever I think of visiting a winery, it's just the pace. It's not like going to a restaurant. It's going to a place and you're kind of inspired just by the surroundings, and you kind of just slow down. And so the events that go with that are different. More family, more community. People aren't kind of just going in and trying to fill up. They're going to spend some time. Like, I think some of my favorite vacations, Sonoma,
Right.
Margaret River in Australia, and just spending the whole, as you said, Ignacio earlier, spending time together, just enjoying company, and it's the wines are great.
Little oases of peace.
But you want to come back to the place, and try the wines again.
It was getting quite run down and almost derelict, a little bit abandoned, and you've completely renovated it.
Exactly. We had just we saved the 1/3 of the existing vineyards. The others, unfortunately, had been removed, but we have planted until now 7 hectares. And that will be harvesting in 4 or 5 years from now. So yeah, definitely this is a world of, and our project precisely is a project of recovery, of buildings, landscape, vines, and it's also a project to communicate the history of the place, and then people who come here not only learn about good wines, hopefully, but also about the organic philosophy of the project and about the story of the dry raisins of Moscatel. That was really the economic motor of the Marina Alta.
Yeah, well, let's talk about a little bit about us. How about James? You've been here in Costa Blanca, and you're British. You've been in France. If you tell us a little bit.
I've been here for almost less time than you've created this project, really. You started in September last year. I think you've achieved more than I have in that time.
You get your kids to school, though. You do.
I managed to get the children to school
Most
back
days.
each day. Most days, not always.
Days they get there on time.
Yes, we moved here in July last year. My sister's been here in Calpe for 30 years. My mother for the past 10. So it's somewhere I've been coming to for a very long time, but I'd never really considered living here. And I realized every time we spent time with my sister, that last day, getting in the car to go back to the airport, I always thought, I don't want to go. And then gradually I thought to myself, well, do we need to go? Would it be viable to live here? And I said to my sister, I said, the problem is that, it's not just us. If it was just myself and my wife, we could live anywhere, it'd be fine. But we have to think about the children, what's best for them. I said, it's a pity there aren't any, serious international schools here. And she said, she said, well, James, there are. I said, really? No, she said, honestly, there are. And she said, no, there's one called LES.
There you go.
Yeah, and that's what brought me here.
Right.
We went to visit LES and we thought, actually, no, this is a really very good school. And we had to make a decision based on the children, what's best for them. And having seen LES, that's it, we're moving here. Initially, it's a 2-year project to test the water, but within 6 months...
You're not leaving.
We're not leaving. Yeah, within 6 months, that's it. And a lot of people come here for 2 or 3 years for professional reasons, then they move on, but we have no particular need to move on anywhere else. We found somewhere we love being, and you're stuck with us, Chris.
It's the stages of the relationship for a lot of families are they come and they have you can still see the sand on their feet. So they just come from the beach and they're just like, they got that dreamy look in their eyes and they're like, we can make this work. We could do this.
Yeah.
And so our job is to say, well, we'll take care of your kids while you figure this out and kind of tick that.
Yeah, that's
we
a
call
big
it
box tick.
Pre-Maslow, we call it, so, and then they go off and find their food, shelter, and water. But then it's rather interesting. You usually find with James, it was, you quickly got into in the school, being part of parent groups, and then, the Havia Players, he was part of that. What was the role?
Acting group.
What was the role you were in?
Giles in Mousetrap. yeah. And then
Oliver?
A few in Oliver, I can't remember now. Is it
You did like
Grimwig
5.
and Sourberry?
But
yeah.
you see these families and they start to find a
down
club or, they start to play paddle or they start to
integrate.
right? And then it's often funny, they'll pass me by in their cars. I'm out there directing traffic, which I do in the morning. Like, we just bought a house, and it's just like, okay.
Okay, he's staying.
Yeah, they're staying.
No, we chose the school first. Before we had any accommodation, we chose the school, and then we thought, right, that's wonderful. Let's find a house within 20 minutes of the school. The school came first. We're at that stage of life where what's best for the children is our number one priority, basically.
So talking about school, Chris, you've been head a school of, I think, in 7 countries. Is that right?
Been head of school in 3 countries, been in 7 countries. So,
And how did you end at the end in Costa Blanca, in this area?
It was the community service that the judge, no, just kidding. It was, we were in Beijing and we were looking for a next chapter that was, I think, a little healthier for our family. My wife's from Lima, Peru, and so, we're a bicultural family in terms of the Spanish, the English, have lived all over the world. Kids grew up in Paraguay, Switzerland, on Bali, in Peru, and so they speak different languages and they're quite well traveled. They eat rice for breakfast, they're fine with that. They're just. So we were looking for a place where we could, feel comfortable, be an outdoors family, which is tough in a place like Beijing. And then one night, someone shared a link to an opportunity on TES, which is the Times Education Supplement, about this international school in this little part of Spain. And I said, And then I started to look into it, and the network of schools behind our school is called the International Schools Partnership, and one of the directors is a gentleman named Martin Skelton, and I've known Martin for years, and I trust him. He's a wonderful educator, and I called him up. I said, is this for real? He said, it's a wonderful school. And so I came to visit.
And 5 years later, here we are.
6 years.
6 years now, exactly.
And Chris, what do you think about the Spanish education? I mean, the Spanish people in general. I know it's difficult, but to give me
Spain.
So many countries you're being, so...
Here we go.
Right.
Spanish public education, Spanish private education. In Spain, education is highly valued. And that is, I think, the mark of mature country that understands, progress is through people coming together and being well educated and exploring new roles and having opportunity. And so I think that our school is part of that landscape. We offer at our school, at Lady Elizabeth School, some different programming than you might find in public education, but there's great teachers and schools all over the country. And private schools often kind of live in their own bubble. And one of the things that I've been really kind of trying to get my team to do is let's get out and find out what's going on. Ooh, go ahead if you like. What's working well in our local schools? Because also, we can't forget many of our students are coming from those schools to our school. So understanding their experience is going to help us set them up for success when they join us, particularly when it comes to language acquisition in English, the ways mathematics is taught. I would say that still there's, in some Spanish schools, they like to learn about things, whereas I think in more of an international education, you learn concepts and skills through different content that is constantly changing. So it's a subtle difference, but I think we need to understand it in order to best serve the families and of course the children that come to the school. So, yeah, and
what about the students you have? I think you have international students, so you've got a big variety of everything. Yeah.
Well, our number one nationality is Spanish nationals.
Right.
We've got 58 different nationalities at the school, and each one has a flag. But full disclosure, we only have 50 flagpoles. So sometimes I'll have someone come up to me and say, "Where's my country's flag?" And I'm, "Stuart, could you go out back and change the Canadian one for the right?" We're getting more flagpoles. We're getting more flagpoles. But we didn't know. It's just. But what's really impressive is when you count the top 10 nationalities. So Spanish is 20%, British is at about 15%, Russian, then Ukrainian about 9 and 8%. And you get down to the 10th nationality, Well, our number one demographic is actually 11 through 58. That's our number one bulk.
Such
And
diversity.
so when you go out on the playground, you know, you're hearing different languages. People are
Like the Tower of Babel, it's wonderful. Yeah.
They've got different football clubs. I'm like, what's that team? It's like, oh, it's from, you know, Bahrain. I'm like, cool. Didn't know there was football over there. That's great. And so yeah, it's a real international community. But the thing there's a lot of common things that bring us all together. One, we want the best of education for the children, and we want peace, which is, especially in this time, I think is so important, that our community is about peace and learning. It's about kids being fired up about their passions and being able to follow their interests and get together with other children and other adults that are interested in the same things.
So James, just tell me a little bit as well about the job guru. That's an interesting one, isn't it?
You better explain what that is. You don't just call someone a job guru and expect them not to land a punch.
Jobs guru, plural.
Jobs.
Jobs guru.
I've learned that he was the CV guy, I was told.
No, the jobs guru.
Jobs guru.
Trademark,
Okay.
yes. The CV guy. No.
Is that like Batman, Spider-Man, jobs guru?
So basically, yes, you can laugh, my friends do laugh, but I'll tell you. So 1998, I was 23, I started a business helping people with their careers. So helping them at the time, writing their CVs, cover letters. In fact, at the beginning, that's all we did. We then progressed, developed to LinkedIn appeared, application forms, interview coaching, careers coaching. By 2010, we were multinational. Basically everything on the candidate side to help people return to work, move up in work, get a promotion, etc. Whilst the business was sort of on its own trajectory, I sort of got more involved in more publicity kind of stuff. Started doing television, radio, I wrote a few books on CVs, interviews, etc. And it was about 10 to 15 years ago, I was on BBC Radio with Anne Diamond, who you may not have heard of, but she was a big TV presenter, newscaster in the 1980s, quite a sex symbol actually. And she has a 1 hour slot on the radio. And she starts off by trying to introduce me. Like, so what do you do? Who are you? And she said, well, James, basically basically you are the jobs guru, aren't you? And I can see my publicist on the other side of the glass. So you've got the studio where I'm with the presenter, and you've got the producer, and I can see him jumping up thinking, oh yes, this is it, the jobs guru, this is gold. This is how we're going to market you going forwards. I was somewhat nonplussed about the idea, and I said, my friends still tease me to this day, hey jobs guru, how's it going today? But that's marketing. The moniker, the nickname stuck, and I am now the jobs guru. Let us not dwell on this any further. But yes, I didn't create it myself. It was created live on radio. My publicist loved it, and we took it and ran with it. I now have a weekly column in a newspaper named The Jobs Guru, and I'm introduced as the Jobs Guru on a regular basis. But
you know, it's testament to James knows this stuff. I learned more about how to present myself in LinkedIn in 20 minutes sitting down with him than. No one teaches you that, right? And I mean, even in our school, for example, we've got what we call our Future Pathways program, that is
which I participate in.
Exactly is designed to help kids start thinking about career choice, but also how they're going to present themselves and what kind of experiences they need to build while they still can in school, so that they can put it on their resume. But how does that supposed to look? And James came in, he's come in a couple times now, but the one time it was after I spoke to some of our sixth formers, and they just spent an hour going. And you just see them, I got to change the way I've done things. Because right now they're doing, applications for universities and trying to present themselves, summer jobs, these kind of things. But if you don't know how to put your presence together, your potential together in one sheet, or a cover letter, and how to really do it for impact, who's going to teach you that? You're going to go to YouTube?
Yeah.
Or are you going to listen to James?
And LES does so much on that front. I'm often shocked by how little universities do. My wife spent 6 years studying veterinary medicine. At the end of it, they had 1 day. Half the day was how to go about marketing yourself, prepare your CV, and the other half was how to run a clinic as a business. one day after 6 years of studying medicine.
Yeah.
And it's so important. University is often, the students were there, they'll learn whatever they're learning, whether it's medicine or business or whatever they're studying at university, but so little attention is paid to how to actually go about getting out there in the world, getting a job, moving on, focusing on your career, planning your career. Elias is, takes that very seriously very early, I feel.
One of the things that you taught me is different audience, different presentation. I had no idea. In the UK, you would never put a photo on a resume. There's legislation that came in some years ago that would.
You remember what I told you?
I'm
impressed.
I remember.
He changed his LinkedIn headline on the spot. He's got his phone out.
I changed it. It was, head of school, Lady Elizabeth School. Now it's international education leader, and I'm included in a lot of different searches and groups that are looking for people on that platform because those keywords strike a chord. Yeah. But I've got to set up a time for you with my son because my son just put up. He's on a beca at the university at La Salle in Barcelona, and very proud of him. But he just announced it on his LinkedIn. Right? And I was like, oh, I'm so proud of you, dude. He's like, Dad, you didn't have to comment. This is a professional LinkedIn. I'm like, oh, should I take it down? He goes, please. So
it's like kissing them on the way into school, isn't it?
Exactly, right, with a university. But he's trying to establish his presence because he's going to be doing his practicas next year, and so he's going to be looking to hook up with a firm. And, all of the training that he's got, all of the success he's got in the school, but unless he can get to the interview and then be able to present himself.
Knows what he's doing, but it's how he markets himself. These are some of the partnerships. We're all products or services, basically, professionally. It's how we market ourselves. People often think I work in HR or recruitment. I don't. I work in marketing. The people I work with, they're the product or the service, whichever you want to call yourself. And my job is to market them effectively. It is marketing, selling yourself, which is vitally important in an increasingly competitive world.
You have no idea how many resumes I get for teaching roles, and the ones that stand out, they tick a lot of the boxes that James talks about. The simplicity, get right to the matter
You must see some very entertaining and diabolical ones, I should imagine.
Oh, dear Lord.
Teachers are often very good at teaching, but when it comes to selling themselves, they fall down badly. Yeah.
Right. Talking about work, in the firm, Ignacio and myself, we are receiving a lot of questions about families to move into Spain, but also as well about, moving the jobs into here, about companies outside. And I know it's a very subjective question, but is Spain a good place to work? Because we are receiving a lot of questions about nomad visa, about taxes, and obviously it depends on the employee, it depends on the area, depends on everything, but it's a good place to work.
I'd say yes. I think Chris can give you a more involved answer. I'm just going to go with a straight yes.
Spain is very evolved in terms of employee rights, and it's very clear what the expectations are for the employer and the employee. And it's a little trickier to be an employer, I would say, and being fair, just because there's
legislation, paperwork.
But my advice, and we've given it to some families that are considering that, it's like, well, I do this in the UK or I do this in Belgium, and are there opportunities? There's tons of opportunities in Spain. However, you don't want to find out about paperwork that is needed once you're here. Yeah, a lot of things you need to organize in your home country. So
it's already too late.
Yeah, I would say, you guys do this a lot. You do this a lot for us. We refer families to you and say, listen, these are people that we know, we trust, they've done good work with our families, and the families have been happy. So that you get advice before you start your journey, because otherwise you can get quite a bit down the road and you find out, and Ignacio and I are working on something with my own family situation. He's like, if you just had got this paper done differently, we wouldn't be talking about it. Yeah. So Spain has those levels of bureaucracy that all countries have.
With a number of pitfalls that are easy to fall into.
Right. And so if you're new navigating language and that paperwork, I think you what's the line from you guys in the UK? Penny wise, pound foolish. If you try to save,
that's right.
If you try to save a little bit, it's better to spend on quality guidance, and there's tons of that around, and we can help connect people, and I know you guys can help connect folks who are looking at buying homes or looking for work permits or visas. The information's out there, but I wouldn't do it through just doing web searches. I would go to someone who knows
I can speak from experience on that point of view. Then, yes, certainly before moving here, yes, we did a bit of web searching and looked at a few little outfits offering NIEs for €29.95 and stuff. And I quickly realised that perhaps this isn't the most intelligent way to go. This is a major life decision. You want to get it right, so take proper professional advice on that. It's not something you want to get wrong.
My dad was a bit of a philosopher king. You get what you pay for, and you pay for what you get. So you pay a little bit more for quality advice and guidance, and then you can sleep well and focus on the most important thing, which is your family, your happiness, and enjoying sunsets by a beautiful vineyard.
James, what do you find fascinating about Spain? I'm sure there is something or a few things.
Wine.
Wine, yeah.
That helps, yeah.
Fascinating. I've lived half my life in England and half my life in France. I lived briefly in Belgium, I lived briefly in the Caribbean, but mainly England and France. And Spain, whilst I visited it for many years, living here, I think our first perception was that we need to try this, because coming here on holiday is very different to actually living in a country. And we've been here on a holiday many, many times with my family, visiting my family. We thought, yes, but that's totally different from actually living in a country when you have to cope with the practicalities day to day, etc. But zero regrets, loved it immediately. What do I find fascinating? In this particular part, the multicultural, international aspect is particularly wonderful. It's interesting hearing Chris's perspective on LES, talking about it from an educator's point of view. He started talking about mathematics and stuff and the teaching methods. When I look at LES, for me it was just two things. One, happy. They're all happy. You can feel it when you walk into it. I've walked into many schools. I taught for a while myself. My uncle was a headmaster. You walk in and you feel this happiness. And secondly, the multicultural aspects, which is just phenomenal. My eldest daughter came home after her first week at school and said, I've made a new friend, and it's not fair because I'm only from 2 countries and she's from 4. Her father's Turkish-American and her mother's Polish-Russian. And previously in England we'd have felt French, and in France we'd have felt English. Here, well, we're not foreign at all. There's people far more foreign. You feel welcome. That's a wonderful aspect in this part. Yeah. The Spanish in general are very lovely and welcoming people. They're patriotic as they are in other countries, but they're also, I find, very open and welcoming of other cultures in a way that I haven't necessarily experienced elsewhere in Europe. The cuisine is fantastic, I knew that already. The wine is fantastic, I knew that already. I've never drunk so much Spanish wine since we moved here.
Yes,
living in France, it's very hard to get wine that's not French. In England, there's a wide variety, but here we now almost exclusively drink Spanish wine. I still order a fair amount of French en primeur for special occasions and things, a little taste of home. But mainly day to day, we're drinking Spanish wine.
Thank you for your support. Yeah, thanks for your support. Always appreciated. Yeah. Great.
I think, this area, there's something about, I often remark on this with parents, there's something about this area that makes people happy. I remember when we moved here, the lady at the meat counter in Consum was like the happiest person I've ever met in my life. And you're just like, oh my God.
Whereas in another country, she might have been desperately miserable.
No, in the other country, they might be like, what is wrong with it? No. And maybe it was because I was coming, China is quite subdued. And that was one of the things that was difficult for us. We were Latinos. We were ready to, hug everybody all the time.
Expressive, emotive.
But I even notice it when you go to other places in Spain. Like when you come back to the coast and you come back to Valencia, people are just in a better mood. And it's infectious. It'll be great guys.
I completely agree. Even from my perspective, coming from Valencia city, that we decided to move to La Marina Alta because within the region of Valencia, for us, it made there was a difference also between Valencia or the city in general, and the ambience that you can sense here in the Marina Alta, the joy of life, the slow pace. Multicultural, as you were mentioning, James, ambience which is very enriching for children also, an ambience of respect as well, of curiosity, of many ingredients that make this...
The phenomenal microclimate as well, which is most unusual.
The other day at the school, someone honked their horn and I was like...
We don't do that here.
There's no road rage here. You know, like I love driving home.
Yeah.
It's like, wee, you know, I go into Mariah and I might stop at the garden center. No, it's just.
If I very occasionally get tooted, I'm always rather surprised. Like, I'm sorry. What is wrong with you?
Yeah, no.
Just relax.
Take it easy.
Yeah.
There's constant. I mean, one of the constant battles in life is that as adults, you know, remembering that we work to live. We don't live to work. And I think this area gets it right. It gets it right. You know what I mean?
I think so too. Yeah, it's a good mixture of enjoying working.
And our children are learning and absorbing that as well.
And the international
You've only got one
part.
life, so far as we know. Yeah.
And what about the food? What is the most, or what do you like?
I was 93 kilos when I moved here, and this suit fitted me perfectly, and I might have gone slightly north of 93 kilos. The food and the wine, certainly we rather overindulged for the first 6 months, I think. Then we've settled down to be slightly healthier, but the food's fantastic, Spanish cuisine, certainly. We went all out for the first few months, rather excessively so. Certainly enjoyed it, and then we thought, actually, no, we can't carry on like this. We need to slow down a little bit, but I think it's divine, Spanish cuisine.
Wow, my wife's a professional chef, as you know, from Lima. So I've got a Peruvian professional chef in the house, which is great for me, but it means that I've got to work out a lot. But the thing is, here, you know, great cuisine relies on great materials. And here you can get the freshest fish. I mean, you go down to the Lonja in Javia and you can get fish that was, you know, taken out of the water 3 hours earlier, and the fruits and the vegetables. And I'm starting to get a sense of when different fruits are available in the markets. But climate change has messed that up a little bit. Things are available a little bit earlier and later than they were. But you know, it's exciting when it's like, ooh, it's papaya season now, or you know, it's like, ooh, it's you know, oranges are back in, you know, and
seasonality is something we still experience in France and England. It doesn't exist anymore. You can get anything you want any time of the year, and children grow up thinking that everything just grows on shelves. It distances them from nature and from real life, doesn't it? Well, seasonality, I think, is an important thing.
Totally, a big thing for our family. I mean, we have a huge garden and herbs and spices, so when we're cooking,
when your wife's
I'm washing and drinking wine, but you know, so we like go out to the garden and get some thyme or some basil or whatever. And, it's wonderful. You step out your door, everything grows here.
I've got a question for you guys, because you've been all so around. How do you celebrate Christmas? Because you've been in so many countries. Such a great
bubble lights.
Bubble
lights.
Yeah. How do you celebrate at home with family?
I was talking about this yesterday with someone was mentioning about buying a Christmas tree. And my electrician, Mario, great guy from Teulada. And he was talking about buying a Christmas tree, and he was talking about buying an artificial one. And I said, do you ever think about buying a real one? And he's like, wow, I used to do that years ago. I remember being on the back of a toboggan with my toque. Okay, this is Canadian. Okay, a toque is a woolen hat with like the little pom-pom on the top.
Yeah. You don't have much use for that here, do you?
No. French-Canadian toque. All right, but I, sitting on the back of a toboggan with my dad, bless his soul, pulling the three of us kids through the forest with an axe to go and find our Christmas tree, and then dragging it back out. We had to get off the toboggan at that point, and we were not happy about that. But
the real tree was a vital family tradition. It was a real tree,
and in Canada, I mean, you would see. That whole 1st of December till 6th of January type thing, and then the tree comes down. I mean, literally the second week after Christmas was over, all of the Christmas trees sitting out by the garbage in the front, and then, so the city guys would come around and get, but you had to be careful about forest fires, or not forest fires, fires from these trees, and because it always happened. But gone are the days of the real Christmas. It's just that smell of the pine needles and trying to put the lights on. A real Christmas tree, you would have marks all the way up. No,
itchy,
right?
Yeah.
But when I say bubble lights, my dad, who passed in 2010, this was later on in his life, and we were out shopping, and this is a stereotype, but as certain people in my family do at the last minute, for Christmas gifts, and he saw something and he almost started crying. I was like, Dad, what's going on? He said, bubble lights. I said, what are you talking about? When he was a kid, so this is back in the 40s in Montreal in Canada, they had these ornaments and they had liquid on the bottom. And so the heat from the light would literally boil water inside the ornament, and it would make like bubbles, and it would rise up.
A bit like a lava lamp.
Like a early lava lamp. And he saw these, and then he got distracted by something. I bought them for him, and he didn't know. And I put them on the tree, and then the next morning he came down. Yeah, it was a good memory. It was a good memory of my dad. Bubble lights.
Never heard of them. They still make them then?
Yeah, no, my mom still has them. I FaceTimed with my mom the other day. She's got Christmas ready to go already. It's November. She's got the creche up, and she's in a retirement home, and so she's got her room in the retirement home. She's got her creche, and she's got the bubble lights. So.
I see.
What about you, James? How do you celebrate with such a mixture of cultures now already?
I personally had Christmas in England, France, Austria, Finland. With my family now, we have had Christmas in Spain together and in England, but we generally just return home to France because Christmas is primarily about family, and most of our family are in France. So we celebrate it French style. I have had Christmas here. It's a very interesting experience sitting outside wearing a t-shirt in the sunshine
on the beach on Christmas Day.
It's almost like being in sort of Sydney or something, Australia. It's an odd feeling. But yeah, I've had classic British Christmas here, but we generally return home to France. I'm afraid we have an artificial tree. I got fed up with the real trees.
No,
I was the one who had to carry them home.
Full disclosure.
All the needles all over the floor that I had to clean up, and yes, I gave up and bought a fake one. And you can get little scented things that you hang from it to make it smell like a real one.
No,
I wouldn't say they're very good. So you can.
You have the Christmas tree odor thing from the car on your tree.
No, not the thing from the car. No, you get these. But essentially, similar. That's right. They hang discreetly. And
ironically, our unique ornaments on our tree are from Bali. Believe it or not, there's a town. Bali is
what is Christmas like?
Bali is an island that is predominantly Hindu in the largest Muslim country in the world, in Indonesia, in terms of population. And there's a little town in Bali that my wife and some friends found that makes Christmas ornaments 365 days a year. It's like Christmasville. It's just a little bit weird, but they're really nice ornaments. So we have them all over our tree. Where are these made? Oh, in Indonesia. What? So that's just, there's all these signs all over our house when it comes to the holidays of just that we've come from so many different places. And I think that's something about holidays, wherever you are in the world. It's a celebration of family. But it's also a celebration of the uniqueness of the family footprint, that it's different for every family.
No, there must be a real Peruvian flavour. No pun intended.
Turkey with spicy sauces on the side. But like last year we bought a jamon, and we just through the full 8 days when we had all the cousins there, was like drinking some wine, having some jamon, and then there was the Peruvian dishes, and we had some visitors over, so we had some Russian dishes, and
wow, fantastic.
How international.
Christmas, any holiday is about bringing people together, celebrating family, celebrating that we're healthy, that we're together, that we have what we have.
The things that really matter, basically.
Yeah, and then we got another year ahead to do things differently and better.
What about What about for 2024? What will be a wish? Something that probably, let's dream, isn't it? Let's dream. But what will you, Maria? What will you wish for 2024? In general. Something that we might think.
I would simply like to turn on the TV and watch a larger, not a larger, because there are not any, but more positive news about any other subject that we might come across. Because it happens to me lately that I need to turn off the TV because really I'm scared of everything that's occurring in different areas in the world, and I'm scared of the world in which our children are growing now. So hopefully we'll be able to, as Chris was mentioned before, to prioritize peace, and then of course keep up with good health in order to achieve all our goals. No, that makes us continue in a lively way. Yeah.
What about you, James?
Without wanting to be too deep and serious,
Yeah.
the things that come to mind are world peace and some sort of resolution to the climatic crisis. Those are things that prey on my mind. I look at my children and I think of the world they're growing up in. And I can fix the little things. I can make sure they have a house and they have food and school uniforms and they go to a good school. Waiting for the smile there. But the big things are what trouble me. But beyond that, health. I have a friend who said to me just the other day, her husband's rather ill. And she said to me, you think you have 1,000 problems. We all do. Life is chaotic. You think you have 1,000 problems until you have a health problem in the family. And then you only have one problem. Exactly. It puts everything else into perspective. We constantly worry about this and that and the other in our lives, don't we? But really, as long as you've got your health, I know it's trite, I know it's a truism, but as long as you have your health, what else really matters?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Chris, what will you say?
Well, I always say that
a bigger and better school.
Well, it's interesting.
Growing, expanding.
No.
Onwards and upwards.
No, I shared there's a group called the Table Group, Lencioni, Patrick Lencioni, and he's done the 5 dysfunctions of team and things like that, and I'm quite a fan. And he talks about 6 essential questions that every organization needs to ask itself, in order to ground itself. And I put this to my leadership team. I said, guys, why do we exist?
What's our
I had them all do it on a Post-it note. And you can get very existential on that. But I said, as a school, why do we exist? And what was fascinating to me is all of the answers were a similar version of the other. And it's about promise. Schools are about a promise of a better future. I mean, they're about helping the child get better at being able to speak in Spanish, or be able to write an essay, or be able to do a science experiment, or be able to collaborate with their colleagues, their peers, ask questions that matter, find relevance in their learning. So it's about a promise of a better future. And I think that's why kids are so happy at our school. I mean, when you talk about a happy school, the only metric that matters, not to my bosses want to know about, blah, 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 and I'm like, well, do you want to know about how many kids are smiling today? Because
it's a difficult metric to measure.
The metric that matters for me,
that's number one.
Are they smiling when they come in? Happy. Are they smiling when they leave? Mm-hmm. Have they had a meaningful experience when they're there? And are they filled with promise? Because I think the one thing that I just heard in what you were saying, Maria, is that upsets me, is there's so many things in society which try to dampen that promise. The news, the politicians that are saying, this is, some politicians are of the whole, make something great again, make this better than it was. Do you want to go back to when we didn't have all of the tools that we have that make our life so efficient and organized? I mean, do we want to go back to when there was segregation and racism? Do we want to go back when we didn't have laws on the books that protected the vulnerable? No,
I'm afraid some people do.
The people who do are the people who want to be in power. Yeah. But what they also want to do is they want to squash the promise that I think is the essential element of a school and a community. So 2024, less people trying to get in the way of promise. Wow. Put that on film.
Through that improved education, participating in their society and community to make the world a better place as well. Yeah?
I want to know about you guys. What do you think?
When they come at the other end.
Ignacio and Pedro, what do you expect?
I think I'll keep it simple. I think we carry on enjoying life, basically. Like little moments that we enjoy. We just stop from working one day. We just breathe. We're healthy. We just enjoy the beautiful area we have. And because we're on a trip, aren't we? We're on a trip, and we all should.
A roller coaster.
Yeah.
That's called life.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And
seize those moments. Live in the present. Mindfulness.
Yeah, I think we should keep it simple. Enjoy the journey. And I agree, we should move forward positive. I just agree with Maria, the news are terrible. I just don't even turn it on. Why would I? I mean, sometimes you need to know what's going on, but it's their story. It's not the real story, that's a different thing. I agree with you, family is important, and the promise I never heard at the school is about promising, and I agree. You know, I have children, and then I see, and then sometimes Spanish, sometimes they try to memorize certain things. It's not about memorizing, it's about just learning the way forward as you introducing into a new, presenting yourself into your career. You know, it's just a way to learn and enjoy. But that my wish will be, let's carry on smiling and enjoying. And what about you, Pedro? What do you think?
Well, I agree with all of you who said. Some weeks ago, I saw a picture, you probably know. It is a picture, I think it's called, in English, is I think Blue Little Point, something like that. Which it's a picture was done 30 or 40 years ago. It was like this Voyager was sent into the universe, into outside the Via Láctea.
Milky Way.
Milky Way.
Yes.
And at some point, the camera, it was ordered to bring the camera because it was going to be doing pictures outside the universe.
You brought it back.
Says, okay, let's go back and watch the Earth.
Yeah.
And make a picture. And that picture was sent, and you just Google, Blue Little Point, or Blue Pequeño Punto Azul.
Yeah.
And you'll see like a dark picture. The blue little point there. And when I saw this, I said, wow. Yeah. And I think you probably know Carl Sagan. Sagan?
Yeah.
When I was a little kid, I was watching all the Sunday afternoon small program in the TV, and I was amazed about him. And then some weeks ago I read it, and it was about the wars, about why are we all the time fighting? Not just the war, which is obviously a big problem, but about work, about families, about discussions, about any things that we understand as big problems. So my wish is like to just to relax and enjoy life and enjoy. Obviously being with attitude of develop and personal and whatever you like, whatever you want on hobbies. And I know what you said about health. I was some years ago in the hospital some days, some weeks, and so I don't have any problems except this.
Yeah, everything else melts away.
Exactly. That's all. It's just I wish everyone have a very good health and enjoy life and just to relax about problems. Because it really doesn't work.
Well, let's cheers then, yeah? Shall we?
So, I need some more water.